So, hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Rulebook 2021 update. This is now part 3 of our discussion, and this time we'll be talking about the Starks. Because we'll be talking about Starks, we're joined today also by Defeng from Anything But Once, as well as Raymond, who plays a lot of Starks in his channel. Isn't that right, Raymond?
Woo, 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 woo. Yes, Starks are my first love, and definitely excited to be on here. Thanks for the invite.
Yep. So basically, people who knows me in both Discord and real life knows that I don't play Stark because I'm not a dirty Stark player. I play Lannister best faction.
Whoa!
So I'm gonna let the two Stark experts here today talk about some of the changes. So we'll start from Berserker. So go ahead, Raymond.
Okay, so one of the first things that you probably noticed with the new Umber Berserkers is the fact that they start on a 4+ to hit instead of a 3+ currently, and the damage track or the hit track is 7, 8, 9 the number of attacks. The Berserker axis has changed tremendously. We don't get any sundering anymore, but we gain +1 to hit for each of these units destroyed rank. So if you notice that it goes back to what Mike as well as Fabio was talking about on their podcasts with Chase from On the Table, this basically pushes the Berserkers to even be able to hit on effectively a 2+ on the last rank, making them very deadly with 9 attacks. Unyielding is also very unique because it suffers -1 wound from failing panic test for each of its destroyed ranks. You notice that the morale has actually bumped up from 4 to 5. So again, you probably don't want to leave the House Armor Berserkers just hovering around, not dying, so you want to finish them off as fast as possible. Personally, I'm still going to be bringing these guys on the field. 6 to move is fantastic. Plus the recent attachment. I don't know whether they're going to change the recent attachment, the one that came out quite recently for Starks, the Chronocman Survivalist, making this rocket unit a rocket, basically.
One thing that you failed to mention is that they're also now cost 6.
Ah, yes. Just previously, they're 7, right? Now
they were 7. Yes, now they're 6 points.
I didn't notice that. Actually, good point.
So now with like a 6-point unit with speed 6 and potentially how much is Chrono Survivalist? 1 or 2 points?
2
points. So basically for 8 points, you have a speed 7 unit that can traverse to any terrains, etc. And with the 5+ armor safe and 5+ morale, they're not gonna. Well, with the 5+ morale, they're not gonna break anytime soon.
That's right. I think one other thing that we cannot discount is unyielding. I just was looking at some of the other general changes as well as the whole concept behind the new Rulebook 2021 is that morale is going to contribute to quite a lot of damage, simply because if you notice all our 2 hits as well as our number of attacks have dropped. This increases the importance of morale, if you ask me. Like, for example, 3 wounds is going to feel a lot more than previously because now it's so difficult to get wounds through.
So how would you use the Berserkers now in 2021, considering the changes to their, they were once very famous because they have essentially 8, 9, 10 ending at 3+ with Sundering, which just auto melts everything and anything. But now they're a bit milder in their offensive power.
Okay, here's the thing. Unless we see the Stark Swan Swords, it's going to be a bit difficult to compare. But just comparing to what we know at the moment, i.e. I just take the Umber Berserkers and I slot it into the current rule set that we have, they still will function the role of flanking / damage dealing unit. The Stark Swan Swords has always been my bread and butter unit only because they're cheap and they can do quite a lot of damage. But again, yet to be seen until we see the release of the full Stark rule set.
But for the Stark Swan Swords, what we do know is that they retain the 4+ defense and the 6+ morale. The attack dice goes to 7, 5, 4. 4+ to hit with a movement of 5. The only thing we do not know is what is the new Stark Fury going to look like. I believe that they are going to lose physical blow. So it might be something that is similar to what the Swan Brothers have, where because from what we have previously seen, there is no longer taking D3 wounds. They tell you how many wounds you're going to take. So Stark Fury might lose critical blow, gain the +1 to hit, and then suffer 1 wound.
Interesting. I mean, again, back in 1.6, I think a lot of lethality comes in from Stark's basic unit. The 5 points with critical blow hitting at initially 8 dice and last at 5 dice, they can definitely hit like 10, 12 hits really, really easily.
Yeah, that's right. And if you combo it currently with Darin O'Harris, the attachment version, I just did it over very recently against Stefan's unit of, I don't know whether it was Wardens.
Yes.
1 unit, just 12 hits, vanished the unit. Crit blow plus basically, he just vanished.
That's 1.6 in a nutshell. Everything just melts within any attack.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's So anything else you'd like to add to Berserkers?
No, at the moment I don't see much else. I mean, they are a DPS unit, and that's their function for me.
So talk about Berserkers. They do spoil also the new Umber champion. So the previous Umber champion is that I believe they gain +2 attack dice, they gain vicious, and then they suffer D3 wounds if I'm not mistaken. But now they've completely reworked the Umber champion. Now they have Order Insight. So Order Insight now reads when this unit is performing a melee attack before rolling attack dice, this attack gains vicious and rolls its highest attack dice value. So this is also a bit of a change to Insight. Actually kind of like a buff to Insight to some extent, because the previous Insight says it does everything like this except you take D3 wounds. They have it in Harma, and they have it in something else, but I don't remember on top of my head. But the new so Umber champion plus House Umber Berserker for 7 points, you basically always hit on 9 dice with vicious and hitting on 4+, which is pretty decent. Any interesting combo you might think of with these two things together?
Immediately, the first thing that jumps out to me is that the champion makes more sense with the Berserkers. So if you look at the current rule set, i.e. 1.6, you'll notice that the Berserker champion could work quite well with Swan Swords. Generally, people field them with the Swan Swords. But with this one, because it attacks with its highest die attack value, you can actually put it into the House Umber Berserkers and start hitting at 9 attacks, although initially on the 4+. So this actually makes, for me, it gives quite a bit of value to the Berserkers. I don't see any killer combos right immediately of jumping out at me. I don't know, Tefung, do you see anything that could just strike you as I must take this kind of thing?
For the Umber champion, no. But what I do think is that the current Umber Berserker fulfills the role of killing the chef units, like Poor Fellows, Raiders, whereas your Great Asses are the ones that are targeted at high armor units, like the Wardens, the Rose Knights, and the Champions of the Stack. So for the Umber champion, it might go well together with the Great Asses, because even if you are hitting at the last rank, you gain vicious, and then you're still hitting at your maximum die value without any defensives allowed.
Yeah, fair. Very fair. So again, we don't know what changes are coming to those units yet. So we of course basing this on what we have at the moment, the current rule set.
So just on the timestamp of the recording of this video is at the 10th of January. So we'll basically revealing what was being revealed at this current point. So maybe in a couple of weeks there might be new additional stuff that we might not know before, including the signature Umber commander, which is Great John. So that will be interesting. But I think what you mentioned is interesting, that they are actually making it that the attachment for that particular unit fits very, very well with the basic unit that they're trying to improve. And that is also both like a very good direction in terms of design, as well as it's also very flavorful.
One thing I want to see is the changes to Kathleen Stark. Because Kathleen Stark used to be the one that allows units to hit at the highest die value, but with the Umber champion taking over this role, what role does Kathleen Stark fulfill?
Well,
Wait,
that's
has
where we find out.
Cat has she been leaked yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. I was like, what?
Mm.
So, enough talking about the Berserkers and the Umber Champion. So, in the next bit, we're going to be talking about, I guess, Raymond's favorite commander, as he mentioned just earlier.
Yeah.
Why don't you take it away?
Howland Reed, he's definitely my favorite commander. So I'm just going to go over what the new commander is looking like. It's got an order superior called Superior Flanking. When a friendly unit in long range performs an attack, before rolling the attack dice, if attacking the defender in the flank or rear, the defender becomes panicked and vulnerable. It gives this unit affiliation of Cranachman, and also enemies engaged with this unit suffer -1 to hit. Now it has the 3 cards: Bog Devil Ambush, Carnot Traps, and the Threat Unseen. At the moment, I'm just going to assume that it's the current cards set. Howland is, of course, a very control commander in the Stark's stable of characters. This makes, just very, very interesting, because you've got a unit that is able to interrupt that enemy as they're coming in. The thing that jumped out at, I think, quite a number of people, and this one I mentioned to you earlier, was the whole combo with the Bloody Mama Skirmishes. The Bloody Mama Skirmishes has been leaked so far, and they have this thing called Agile. So attackers suffer -1 to hit when attacking the unit of Bloody Mama Skirmishes. Put Howland Reed in that, you're now at -2 to hit. We know majority of the units now are going to be hitting on 4s. -2 puts them at 6s to hit. Now, plus the fact that the Bloody Mama Skirmishes has Counter Strike. Each time this unit is attacked with a melee attack, for each miss, the attacker suffers 1 hit. So what's going to happen is, effectively, the attacker that attacks this Bloody Mama Skirmishes are going to take more damage when they are attacking. Not forgetting that they have Mama's Blade. If you are attacking, Mama's Blade is only when the Bloody Mummies are attacking. Sorry.
Do you feel sad that, well, actually, so that Howland used to be an NCU commander, but as we've seen in the article, which it was accompanied with, is that basically they want to basically, they don't want NCU commander to exist anymore. So I guess if this is a global reduction in activation, and I think they successfully addressed that one of the problem with 1.6 is that you do have, it's a very activation reliant meta, where Stark 10 act, Free Folk 11 act, Insignificant Spam, Baratheon 9 act, Nightwatch 9 act is just the norm. It's, if you're playing like, I don't know, Lannister 7-8 act or Baratheon 7-8 act, I don't think you can even compete. But now they basically says that, all right, no more NCU commanders. We're putting some field commanders there, and now suddenly the game modes that they spoil make sense, because there's a lot of incentive to bring field commanders, and now, well, it's no longer an incentive to bring field commanders. It's like you just bring field commanders. Yeah,
that's right. To answer your question, am I sad to see the NCU commander disappear? Yes and no. Yes, because it puts more emphasis on ground units fighting it out. Plus the fact that now our NCUs generally would cost about 4 points, maybe 1 or 2 might cost 3. Other than that, I think majority of the players are going to slowly move away from that 3 NCU meta. Whether or not that happens, we have yet to see. But I think it's actually good for the game. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Speaking of the 3 NCU meta, the start card that comes into mind because of this is actually Sudden Charge. So if Sudden Charge still exists, then we might still see adherence to a 3 NCU meta, because you want to deny people the ability to do an out of activation action.
Good point, really good point. And one of the reasons why I love bringing the 2 sisters, Arya as well as Sansa, in every almost every one of my Stark lists is mainly because of Sudden Charge. Sudden Charge is such a game breaker. Combining it with Sansa's ability to fish it out of the discard pile and then throw it back into and do it again, it's basically, it means that I can do it 3 times. How that will change really depending on whether or not, like you mentioned earlier, if they remove Sudden Charge out of our deck.
It's a definitely a high possibility because as you mentioned in the Baratheon article, one of the hot takes that the film said is that they might remove Our Sister Fury because Our Sister Fury is an out of activation card that is available to the faction. If you still keep, for example, Sudden Charge in Stark, that means that you're just incentivizing out of turn activation, which is available to everyone. It would, I guess, make sense more, flavorfully if it's tied to a certain commander, as if, like, for example, Mountain and the Spoiled Victarion. So, so not all Star Commander have Sudden Charge, but one of them has Sudden Charge. I mean, Greatjon Umber with Sudden Charge might be interesting. Who knows?
Yeah. Are they going to do the 4-card replacement? So right now we have the 3-card replacement for commanders, right? There was talks about them wanting to replicate what they've done with Alistair, Florin, and Baratheon to all the other armies as well.
It's Davos Yoff.
Oh, sorry, Davos.
Davos. But I don't think they are going ahead with the plan, at least not to a huge extent, because when we look at the Jaime Lannister's the preview in the rulebook, he still only has 3 tactics cards.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to add to that. Basically, I think the plan for them to add in the 4th commander card is specifically for Targaryen. Because in the article they mentioned about the tactics and identity of the faction, I believe they wanted the Targaryen to have the most diverse set of commander cards. So I think what you mentioned is applicable to a Targaryen, which is interesting.
Because Targaryens can go either full cav or full infantry.
Yeah.
Yep, and if you're playing full infantry or full cav, definitely you'll have like very different tactics altogether for those two. Yeah, and in my opinion, like Howland with Mummers is just mean. Like it's really mean.
I mean, I don't know what else we can get things like that throws down weaken on top of that outside of taking the tactics zone. I'm not sure if the new control in 2021. The Vision in Flames. We had, I think, two so far that are leaked, Walder Frey as well as Varys. So if you look at Lord Varys, right, I'm just going to jump to him for a bit. Little Birds basically gives him 4 tokens, order tokens, and when an enemy NCU claims a zone after resolving a zone's effect, you may remove 1 order from Varys. So again, going into the whole Varys, like, you do something, I'll benefit from it too. If you do gain one of the following based on that zone, so if the enemy takes the crown, 1 enemy suffers 1 panic test. If he takes the money back, restore 2 wounds to 1 friendly unit. If he takes the swords, the enemy then suffers 3 hits. If he takes the letters, draw 1 tactics card, and the horse basically gives a friendly unit shifts 3 inches. Going back into the whole concept behind Howland is control, right? So I have this feeling that Varys will appear in my Howland lists. The new Lord Varys costs 4 points. Control is always, you want your opponent thinking or complicating his own decision-making process. So as he's going through his thought process, like sometimes I play against Stefan, he'll go silent for like 2 minutes. I'm like, what's happening? So he's processing it. The more variables you can throw in there, the more hiccups you can make him think about, that's always better. But Varys doesn't like weaken him, but Walder Frey does. So if you look at the late Walder Frey, you may only activate. The downside is Walder Frey can only be activated when you have no other units to activate this round. When Walder Frey claims a zone, you may replace the zone's effect with the effect of any zone. If Walder claims crown, you may replace the zone effect with 1 enemy becomes weakened. That's pretty good. If you combine that with Howland Reed, with the ability of denying the opponent the ability to hit, whoosh, that's gonna hurt them real bad.
I think the fun part about Walder is that if you have Crown Oxman, even if the sword is already taken, you can final activation, you take sword again with Walder. But enough talk about the Howland commander. You want to talk about the Howland NCU?
The NCU. Let me just give me 1 second. I was focusing 100% on the commander. Okay, so let's just go into the NCU for a bit. He's got Hunter's Guile, which is basically an influence card. When you influence an enemy unit, the enemy suffers -1 to hit, and they treat all terrain as having hindering and rough keywords. Okay, this is actually quite juicy. Interestingly enough, if you look at this NCU, he's been bumped up to 5 points here from his current 3. -1 to hit is huge because majority of units will be striking on 4. It'll jump to 5. Now, I don't know how they're gonna roll this out to all their factions elite units. You guys may be able to correct me here. Are all the faction elite units, if any of them that are released, are they hitting on 3s or are they hitting still on 4s?
3s.
Yeah.
Anything
Okay.
that's 7 points and above is usually hitting at 3+.
Yeah. If that's the case, then for Howland, if there is no weaken on that enemy unit, you probably don't want to use this influence on that unit. Only because 4+, he's still going to hit 50% of the time. So,
No, but the
unless
thing
it's-
For Howland Reed's second ability,
Mhm.
hindering now works very well against units that hit well because it actually works against all kind of units because hindering makes sure that it is always a disorderly charge.
Yep. That's under the new 2021 rule pack.
Yes.
Also, so they make it each terrain is hindering and rough. So not only that, if you decide
rough.
to charge, you'll be automatically disordered. But I have to clarify a bit. It's not exactly automatically disordered. You just don't get the reroll bonus. You still need to roll a dice. If it's a roll of 1, you don't get. Then you don't get to play your tactics card. And then rough means that every terrain that they step on is a -1 speed. So you suddenly, for example, if you're playing Howland Reed Commander, you just spam Happy Tree, and then suddenly that Happy Tree becomes Howland NCU. Then that Happy Tree suddenly becomes a bulk pile to the opponent.
Don't know what you're talking about. Happy Tree. We call it Giving Tree around the north.
In south of the sea here we call it the Happy Tree.
I like
One
it. I think he's right.
One fun fact that I'd like to give combo while we're talking about the neutrals is that the new Jacken can now copy influence. So if you bring a Howland NCU, then you bring Yakin. You give the Howland NCU to someone, and then you give Yakin to another guy, copying the Howland NCU. So now you have 2 units sitting at -1 each.
That's pretty powerful actually. Then now you'll see the emergence of Bloody Mamas, the skirmishes a whole heap more actually with the Howland Reed list. Now the question mark that I have is going back to Howland Reed. For my Howland Reed list, usually I have a unit of Krennicman, and they're always very useful because they'll do their thing. They'll go in the flank and then they'll scoot to the backs of the lines and then just create chaos, massive chaos. I just don't know if both the NCU or the commander will actually make such a huge. Does it incentivize any of you to actually bring more of these guys?
You have to see the cards that he's bringing because Bulk Devil Ambush, I think the threat unseen all remains the same. So there might be some changes to the card text itself. But at least we know what are the 3 cards that he is going to bring onto the table.
Actually, sorry, I know we're jumping back to the Howland Reed Commander version. Superior flanking is actually really good for the Krennicman unit as well because you have attacking from flank or rear. You can toss this order onto them. The defender becomes panicked and vulnerable. That's pretty impressive.
Actually, there is the superior flanking is a changed order. Previously, Hammer was the one who had it.
That's right.
And
Sorry.
to add +3 attack dice. So now this was gone and changed to a panicked.
Yeah, it's panic and vulnerable. The existing superior flanking is +3 dice and vulnerable. So they basically replaced the 3 attack dice with panic, which is I guess plus minus. It's pretty good because three hits usually equates to like one or 2 extra wounds, and then panic token usually also then translates to 1 or 2 extra wounds. So it's plus minus the same.
But in general, one other thing that I've noticed is, again, I'm already feeling, going through this rule set, I'm already feeling that our game will be a little longer simply because those 2-3 wounds extra per round is going to translate to another round in game.
That's actually, well, I mean, that's why we in wargames.id we're playtesting with some of these new rules, new game modes, etc., just to check and balance to see like whether the game rounds is actually longer or not. So far we haven't really reached a conclusion. We'll have to playtest more, but I think I get the sentiment because everybody's sort of hitting less. But on the but on the other side, a lot of the deployment is now fixed to 10 inches, like Game of Thrones. And commander units actually get 2 points per turn. So even though that the unit is less skilly, but the fact that your commander is getting 2 points per turn, and then you cannot, you're very hard to kill the commander unit. It basically translates to plus minus the same.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So enough about Howland. I know Raymond's gushing about Howland because I guess he's one of the biggest changes that we see in like an NCU commander, and it also sets a precedence to all NCU commander in the game. So I understand his enthusiasm, but let's talk about the next NCU, which was also changed for Stark, which is Sansa Stark, and I believe this is the third iteration of Sansa that was changed. So now she's 4 points. That reads, repeating the words, Sansa begins the game with 2 order tokens on her. When Sansa claims a zone, you may remove 1 order token from her. If you do, replace that zone effects with return 1 tactics card from your discard pile to your hand. Now that's a bit difficult because she's a zone replacement effect that takes back a card that was already discarded. So I know that Sansa, the first Sansa that was revealed, the 3-point, she can search for anything, anytime, was just a bit too much.
Yes.
And then she was changed to anytime she can fetch back card from the discard pile. So basically, your discard pile suddenly becomes your second hand. But now I feel this one is a bit too much of a change for Sansa. What do you guys think?
For her, it's more to reduce her ability to combo out sudden charge, to combo out devastating impact.
Yeah.
On the unit that you want to activate and just rush into the enemy.
Yep.
So this one allows there to be some response from the opponent.
Yep.
Because now she has to take a zone. You have to waste her activation before the unit that you want can do what it wants.
That's right. That's definitely the first thing that jumps out. But if you don't mind, I can just hop in here. Sansa's ability in the current meta is extremely powerful because effectively she can do it at any point in time. I think that is the critical one. I can pull a card. I'm incentivized as a player, as a start player, to at the beginning of any action that I want to take, I go, okay, my unit is about to die. It needs to hold that point. It's got my commander in there, and on top of that, I am going to score 2 points. I can immediately look at my discard pile, and then I'm incentivized to pull the card out that will save that unit. So it gives Sansa this tremendous power. It doesn't hit the nail right on the head. The fact that it slows it down. She will basically only be able to do it when she goes down on the board, which kind of sucks. And they've bumped it up by 1 point. I was thinking if they kept it at 3, not so painful because it's a nerf basically, and you also raise her points. So I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on.
She's able to do it twice. So actually now you can do your sudden charge 4 times, your impact 4 times instead of 3.
Yeah. Again, you remember sudden charge is most surprising because I can say, okay, I am pulling the sudden charge out of the graveyard, and then I hop onto any of the zone and I go boom, I'll attack you and I'll deny you 1 zone as well. So Sansa previously at 3 points was extremely powerful, giving my unit not only an extra activation, but fantastic use of the card. Yes, it's great that I can pull 2 cards back, but at the same time, like you just mentioned, now my opponent gets 1 whole turn to react. He knows what's going to come already.
It's no longer a sudden charge. Your opponent knows about it. So
Exactly.
one of the things that I'd like to make a comparison also is that Sansa has the bringing back card from the discard pile ability that Cersei also has. But I think it's I like Cersei's ability more because she tutors for like two specific cards, and she's not like exactly a zone replacement effect. So I don't know. I think it's a bit much that what they did to Sansa at 4 points.
Well, I feel that it's okay because Cersei's ability only targets 2 cards, whereas for Sansa's ability is any card that you want. So it might even be the Swift Advance, or if your unit's going to die, you can tutor back your Direwolf's Fervor.
But again, that you can only do if it is in the discard pile. So that's the downside of it.
No, but because we are capped at 5 cards in our hand, so sometimes it's just, I might want to draw cards, so that I can just discard a card and then use whatever that I want to use straight away, even if it's not going to be very beneficial straight away, but I can get some benefit from it. I just use the card first, and then Sansa will say, okay, now there's something for me to tutor back.
So as a start player, I again, me maybe as a player as well, I'm always looking for value plays. One of the most important thing is I never want to just discard a card unless I have extracted some value out of it. Of course, if round 1, for example, you pull something like a North Remembers, you'd be like, maybe I should just discard one of these. But outside that, I do try to get some use out of it first before I actually discard it. So I don't know. I'm very mixed feelings about Sansa.
No, because the thing is that for the other factions, we try to maximize the value. So even if we just see a little benefit, we might hold back from using the card because it might not extract the full value from what we think the card can do. Whereas now for Starks, it's still back to the idea of I can pull back the card, so I will use the card for just that little bit of value right now, even if it doesn't change the game. Because I know that I can draw a card later and I can tutor back 1 card.
Well, but I think like one of the unfortunate bit about Sansa is that because she's 4 points, she competes with other 4-pointers in the game. And as we mentioned earlier, like Varys is a banger for 4 points, so you immediately look at Varys and go, well, Varys gives me like so many things that I can do, and then you might be even looking at Eddard for like extra healing, and suddenly Sansa is in a lot of competition with the other NCUs, and I guess her ability is not only a zone replacement, but it's also like a minor card advantage in the grand scale of things.
The other factor, Arya.
Wow. So I doubt Arya will stay at 3 points.
No, she's not. But I think that because of her ability to make something move at the start of the round, so instead, she might keep that ability and then add some benefit later on, or it might be something similar to Cersei, specific card tutoring.
Yeah, I mean, like that might be a possibility as well.
But that is again purely speculative. At the moment, we don't really.
Yep, we're at the hottest of the takes here. Coming in from wargames.id and anything but once. We're just spewing hot takes everywhere. But in terms of hot takes, let's move on to the next topic. So I understand that in one of the articles that they mentioned is that they want to replace Northern Ferocity with Winter's Might. But I think if most of you here have looked at the new rulebook in page 21, they have the card Northern Ferocity. So Deflon, would you like to give us some insights about that?
Okay, so I believe that they did have some plans, and as they play test, as they gather feedback, then they decided, maybe there are some things that we should change as well. So Winter's Might was originally planned to replace the Northern Ferocity because it gives the attack Sundering. And the new card Winter's Might, when a friendly unit is performing a melee attack, before rolling attack dice, this attack gains Sundering, may reroll any attack dice. After completing this attack, the attacker suffers 2 wounds, -1 wound for each of his destroyed ranks. If you control the swords, this attack also rolls its highest attack die value. So this card shows, as along together with the Northern Ferocity that we'll be going to talk about later, it tells you exactly how many wounds you are going to suffer if you want to use this card. So there's no longer rolling D3 to see how many wounds you're going to take. So this card is the one that will give Sundering to the attack. Whereas for the Northern Ferocity, the new one in the rulebook, when a friendly unit is performing an attack before rolling attack dice, this attack gains vicious. And if the defender fails their panic test, they suffer +1 wound for each of the attacker's destroyed ranks. After completing this attack, the attacker suffers 2 wounds, -1 wound for each of its destroyed ranks. So for the faction identity for Starks is, as they take damage, they become more powerful. They gain benefits for taking damage. And these two cards actually go hand in hand with that. One is to give vicious, one is to give sundering. But of course they share the same window, so you cannot use both at the same time.
Again, as we've seen earlier from the Berserkers, that seems to be the design, is that, you know, as they get more damage, they gain more benefits. And I think that's, you know, you do want, as a Stark player, I always see that you're very sort of the Alpha Striker faction. Even if you take the initial damage, you still can punch back quite hard.
But the Winter's Might, it does allow you to reroll any attack dice. So this works very well with the Berserkers, because if they go down to the last rank and then they roll at 2+ to hit, this allows them to throw everything that they need at your unit with Sundering.
9 dice, 2+. Wow, it's pretty good.
Winter's Might would come in really powerful once we know if Starks gets a unit with critical blow. You pair that with something that gives precision, for example. Goodness gracious me. GG.
Actually, the thing about the Northern Ferocity giving vicious is at the same role as Umber Champion. So
same role.
Both give the attack vicious.
Yeah, same role. Okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, because the funny thing is, Starks never really had vicious, you know, in this 1.6, and all of a sudden we're seeing, like, in Rulebook 2021, we're getting a lot of vicious. But why?
Vicious was with the Umber Champion and with Shaggy Dog. Other than that, then suddenly why are you getting vicious? I thought it was a Lannister thing.
Exactly. Now, once you throw something like vicious into our tactic deck, that basically means my entire faction will get vicious at least for 2 times.
Maybe it's just to replace the lack of critical blow.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, because previously or currently, Starks are known to be the more motivated combatants. So I see them generally as an army that comes in, they're very motivated, they want to get in combat, they're really good at combat, and they're very loyal. So that's the general flavor, right? All of a sudden we're vicious.
But there is also like an extra thing, which is, I don't know, I find it weird that it exists in a Stark deck, because it says you also suffer plus extra wound for each of the attacker's destroyed ranks. So it's like you make a panic test, but then the panic damage increases.
No. You suffer 2 wounds, and
but less.
You suffer 2 wounds, and then for each of your own destroyed ranks,
yes,
you take less wounds. So if you're at your
last, I was talking about the Northern Ferocity. If defender fails the panic test, they suffer +1 wound for each of the attacker's destroyed ranks.
Oh yeah.
So, for example, if you're on the last rank, you could potentially take 5 damage from the panic test.
Yes, because this one I think goes back to the Stark Fury, because I still believe that it retains the ability to. You will have to take wounds if you want to trigger Stark Fury. The only question is, how many wounds are you going to take?
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I think this one we probably want to move on, only because I share with you why. I have a feeling this one is still in discussion at the moment. That's probably why we see it, like, being said that it's removed, then it's back again. It's like, what the heck?
Again, number one, it makes sense in the scheme of the Stark design, because they want to make it as if we're on our last rank, we are very powerful, and this is our scariest moment. But at the same time, as you mentioned, having a basic deck with fishes means that all of your units suddenly gets access to fishes, which is not exactly a very Stark ability.
Yeah. I mean, okay, which neutral units give us fishes at the moment? We have
Bolton Cutthroats.
That's only one, right?
Iffy on whether they continue to have it. Anything that's Bolton deals with panic. So statement still have vicious. The only one that doesn't have vicious is the Bolton Blackguards.
Okay.
Yep, Bastard Girl has vicious on the dogs, and Fleet Man has vicious on the charge.
So with that, we know what we know right now. You could actually bring neutral units that have fishes, and again, it'll stack. No, not stack. Actually, no, we don't need that. Dumb. Okay, move on.
So I believe that's the last information we've got for the Stark. Any closing thoughts for the Stark changes, especially from a Stark player? I'm a Lannister player, so I'm not allowed to say anything about this.
You're allowed to say stuff. In fact, I always treasure what you guys think about, like, how does this impact you more than it does me? Because here's the thing. Based on what we know so far, I know the game's going to slow down. I also know that my Berserkers are definitely not going to hit as hard as the current guys. Would I bring them? Yes, in lists that require me to take down the enemy in order to maintain board presence. The bigger question mark I have is, of course, as a Stark player, how much of control are we going to get from killing, and how much of the control we're going to get from our cards? Yet to see that.
For me, honestly, the big puzzle is that what will happen to Wolf. That would be the single most important question I see in the Stark. I mean, I don't really mind sudden charge, swift advance. I guess it's okay, but I really mind things like Wolf, because it just gives a lot of activation for very little cost, and that was one of the problem we had with 1.6. The Stark killiness was okay-ish, because they sort of counter that with very weak defensive stats, like 5+ armor on the Berserkers is really bad, and also Sworn Sword is also having like medium armor at 4+, and also every time they do Starfree they take D3, so it's sort of like a self-contained in terms of the damage. But again, I'm happy that they are reducing the amount of spike damage that the Berserker has, because I think if Sworn Sword doesn't exist, then Berserker is probably like one of the best units in the game. 1.6 Berserker is just, I guess it's just, you're hitting at an 8 initially, 3+ with Sundering, speed 6. You will get charged by someone, fine, whatever, because you have a morale of 4, you're not gonna break. So you need at the very minimum 12 hits to one-shot a Berserker. And then if they don't, if you don't kill the Berserker, suddenly they punch you back, with 10 dice. And you're like, haha.
Actually, there's also one thing that I want to know about with regards to Starks. Who is at 7 points?
We don't know yet at the moment.
So it used to be Berserkers and Great Asses are both at 7 points.
That's right.
But now we see the Berserkers going down to 6. Actually, no, at 7 points. Last time in version 1, we also had the Tardy Swan Shields.
Yep.
So there were 3 units at 7 points. So now Tardy Swan Shields went down to 6. Will they be kept at 6? Great Asses, what's going to be a plan for them? So I think this is something that when they spoil it, it'll become very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, also there are 2 units that's still also being question mark, which is the Tully Cav and the Outriders. But I guess we'll look at that as if it was going to be spoiled sometime soon. But at the very moment, I'm glad that there's a lot of new directions for the game. The removal of NCU commanders, the removal of a lot of the spikiness is refreshing for the game, and I hope that the same treatment is applied to every faction. And we'll see who's if everything is equal, then everything is balanced.
Mm. But I do see there is that swift advance will remain, but we might see a change to pathfinding.
I think having both Swift Advance and Devastating Impact should not be in the same deck. Because with if you control horse, you'll be moving an extra one, and then you confirm a charge at your speed. So it validates completely like basically charging.
But because they do want stats to have high mobility, they have mobility tricks, which is why I think things like Devastating Impact and Swift Advance are two of the tricks that stats usually might think about. In the
My guess is similar to yours. I think they will keep those, but they will remove sudden charge.
Yeah, might be.
That's also pretty fair, I guess. Just don't have three of them in the same deck.
Because it is like Swift Advance and Devastating Impact allows a unit to charge opponents in the flank.
That's right.
So the ones who can counter this, Lannisters have Commodious now, because now we can set for charge to the flank. Baratheons has the Master Warden. I'm not sure whether it's going to change. I think that we might see a boost of Master Warden, but if not, they will still make sure that even if you charge me in the flank, you don't get any flank bonus. Then other factions, I'm not so sure whether they get any benefits at all. But
the free folk, they have the thin warriors now. That also ignores.
Yeah. And the 10 warriors, if they remain at 6 points, also going to be something interesting to look at. Yeah. But that's what we talk about free folk.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's it for the discussion for today. So again, thank you for Raymond for being here in today's episode talking about Stark. Thank you also for Defeng and coming here also. Do you guys want to do a shout out for your channels?
Yeah. Of course, if you haven't watched this on anything but once in YouTube, please head on over. Check out our battle reports. I do quite a number of unboxing as well. The rest of the gang and I, we spend quite a bit of time doing the battle reports. Definitely love to see you guys there. Drop, say hi. We just passed the 500 mark, so we have a custom URL. So let's try to also get Wargames ID to that 500 subscriber mark so that we can all have nice custom URLs.
Woohoo! All right, it's been a pleasure having you guys. So stay tuned for the next episode, guys, and have a good evening, all.
Goodbye.
See ya.